The Things We All Carry is a podcast about first responders and their stories surrounding trauma on the job. The intention of this podcast is to raise awareness and share meaningful conversation around the subject often viewed as taboo or simply ignored. Be aware this content may be graphic and it is real. It may not be suitable for children or adults triggered by this subject matter.
Welcome back to The Things We All Carry. It's been a couple weeks since I sat down to record an intro, and I did that because I needed some time away. I needed to take a break and take a breath and try and recharge a little bit. And I tried. I did. I honestly did try to kind of recharge a little bit. It's been an enlightening bit of time, to be honest with you. I've had some time to look back on for the last 10, 12, 18, maybe even 24 months. And it's been a period of introspection and self-reflection, I suppose, in a way. And I need to do a lot more of it, but this is the takeaway. And this might not surprise everybody. And it kind of surprised me just because of kind of the depths of it. But I look at those past few months or the past year plus, and I'm kind of coming out of it a little bit. And I see how dark I got. And I'm not diagnosed with anything. This is just a self-reflection or like I said, some introspection. But I'm pretty sure it's depression, and I'm pretty sure it got pretty goddamn bad. And I asked a question to my Instagram audience the other day. I said, what does depression mean to you? And I got a variety of answers, and almost every answer I got there reflected what I was going through. And I would say that the predominant factor in this depression I'm in has to do with inaction, has to do with isolation, has to do with that freeze of the fight, flight, or freeze. I froze, and I'm still frozen. And I know I put a show out every week, and I put posts out about the shows, and I talk about it. But that is all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. And that's why I decided to take a couple of weeks off. And I honestly didn't know when I was going to come back, but I felt like putting a show out this week. And I think this show was relevant to the Thanksgiving time frame. So I wanted to get it out. But to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm actually ready to put the show out, but here I am. I'm going to try and do it. And I had a ton of trepidation just pushing record right now to do this intro. So depression sneaks up on you. So you don't realize how deep or dark you are until you're in it and you're well past, let me pull myself out real quick. I guess that's the very definition of it, right? It's something that affects everything you do, and it affects daily life to the point that everything is affected. So here I sit. How many months removed from the fire service? 9 months removed from the fire service. And even that was probably a decision born from the funk or the depression that I was in or am in. And I never thought of it that way. I started reading a book, and the book is called Something in the Woods Loves You. It's a man's memoir of dealing with depression and taking that first step and trying to move forward through a process of recovery and trying to live and trying to find the light. And at first I thought, I don't need a book like that. That's ridiculous. But I started flipping through the pages, and then I read a couple pages on it, and it hit me. Oh no, I do need that book. And oh, that is me. And within the first couple pages, it talks about how your mind is not your friend at times. It's quite the opposite. It can be your enemy. But the irony of it is you have a disease and you need to use the same part of your body that's diseased to fix itself. And how do you do that? And we talk about shame and guilt. And how shame drives it. How guilt drives it and strengthens that depression and makes it deeper. And then and the shame keeps you from asking for help. Yeah. And before you know it, you've lost yourself to the world and you've locked yourself away. And that's where I find myself. I shunned activity. I shunned interaction. I shunned family. And I shunned friendship. And I ruined relationships. And I have no one to blame but myself. And that's the thing. It's like a self-perpetuating thing. It's the further you sink, the more you lose. The more you lose, the further you sink. And the more you lose, and then you want to sink further, and then you gradually glide away. Gradually slide away from everything good in your life. And it's so insidious because you don't even know it. You don't even recognize it until you're so fucking deep in it that you don't know what to do. And you have people offering lifelines and offering help. And again, your brain and your shame speak to you and you say, you say some of the scariest words ever. And those words are, I don't deserve it. I'm supposed to hurt. It's what I deserve. The pain, the shame, the guilt. You've hurt people, so you get to hurt. I sat down to record this intro and I didn't know what I was going to say as always, but I knew not knew. My gut feeling was, don't touch the third rail. Don't talk about it. Don't share it. But then I know I had the voices of friends and people who know what I'm going through in some manner. And it wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't share that struggle as well. So here I am, again, that flawed individual, that human being, that man with frailties and downfalls and a shit ton of mistakes in my past that I've never let go. Only to come to find out in some instances that the people that I think I should have guilt about or the shame about or I need to make amends with the most have already forgiven me. But I don't know that because we don't normally talk about forgiveness. And forgiveness isn't always for the other person. Quite often it's not. And forgiveness is for yourself. And shared a message with a friend the other day, and I talked about forgiveness and the ability to forgive self. And that's a tough thing. That's the first step that you have to take. You have to be able to forgive yourself. And I haven't gotten there yet. I'm not able to do that yet. And I don't know when that will be. But until that point, it's probably going to be a struggle. And I have to figure out how to do it and how to make it meaningful and how to make it impactful and how to make it honest. And honesty is a tough thing for me to come by at times. And I admit that, and I hate it, but it is a tough thing for me to come by at times. And I just go back to the fact that I'm a flawed individual who needs to make my changes and make my peace and find a way to forgive myself. Because without it, I can't move forward. And I have to move forward. I have to move forward in my life, both personally, professionally, whatever it is. I have to be able to move forward in whatever situation it is, whatever manner, whatever form. I have to be able to move forward because the alternative is not palatable. The alternative is scary, and I don't want to be part of that. So it's been a rough little go, and I've affected people around me, and I hate the people. I hate that I've hurt people. And I can only hope that in the future, as time passes, people remember me as the better version of myself. There's a song lyric that an artist of mine, a favorite artist of mine has, and his name is Todd Snyder. And he says, I hope you remember me when I was listening to my better angels. And it's such a stark reminder that sometimes we all fall prey to the darker thoughts. We all fall prey to the impetuous thoughts. And so, yeah, for family, for friends, for coworkers, for anybody, I hope you remember me when I was listening to my better angels. Because I don't know the last time I was myself. And I need to find myself again. And that's the goal. That is my mission right now, is to find myself again, whatever that means nowadays, whatever the new me is. The goal is I need to find myself and be comfortable in my own skin and forgive myself and move past my mistakes and my failings. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for humoring me and letting me have a platform for a few minutes every week. And like I always say, with that being said, welcome to episode 142 on the things we all carry. Today, I'm bringing you a guest by the name of Ashley Iverson, and I recorded this show, I think it was back in January, to be honest with you. I know there was snow on the ground because I mentioned it in the show, and we had a lot of technical difficulties with the show. There was a lot of audio difficulty. There was dropped signal. It was a rainy day in San Diego, and I was in a snowy day in Virginia, and we were having a lot of connection issues. And so I had to do a lot of dancing with this one. I had to do a lot of repair and a lot of patience. But I think this is a good one to release this time of the year because Ashley lost her husband to a wildland fire. It's the Thomas fire, and he was killed. And almost immediately after she found out he died, Ashley found gratitude in something. And I think that ties in really well with the Thanksgiving spirit. She found gratitude even in the darkest of times for herself. And from that, she made it her mission to throw that lifeline to others. And she founded her own foundation in Corey's name, and it's focused on helping first responders in their mental health and preventing suicide, preventing the stigma surrounding all of this. So I hope this show finds you well. I hope Thanksgiving is good for you. I hope you can take away some nuggets of wisdom from the show. And again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this journey. And thank you for humoring me and allowing me to spend a few minutes every week with you. It's much appreciated. And reach out to me. Let me know what you think about the show. You know what? I want to hear it all. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let me hear it. I love getting the comments. I love getting the critiques. I love it all. I want to hear more of it. So you guys reach out to me on Instagram at The Things We All Carry. The same thing on TikTok at The Things We All Carry. And you can email me, stack@thethingsweallcarry.com. I try to get back to everybody as fast as possible. The last few weeks have been chaotic and a little weird. So it's taken me a little more time. So bear with me. And I look to get back on track and bring you shows every week. And let's press forward. Let's find a future together. And you guys get out there and do something for yourselves.
You ready? Well, I'll hit record and we can just have a conversation.
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. Welcome back to The Things We All Carry. Today, I'm honored to have Ashley Iverson on the show. She is the widow of Corey Iverson and the founder of IFAA. And IFAA is an organization that is all about mental health and promoting the mental wealth and the mental health of firefighters or first responders in general, Ashley.
First responder community in general, yes.
Awesome. So how are you doing today?
I'm good. We've got a lot going on right now, and it's raining in San Diego, so I can't say that it's sunny San Diego today.
That's a rare occurrence, isn't it?
It is very rare, and it's been raining for about 3 days, so people are starting to lose their minds down here.
Well, we've had snow on the ground for over a week, so you can have that or the rain. You choose.
Hey, I'd take the rain any day. It's fine.
Awesome. Let's start with a song. What's the last song you listened to?
It was, it's fine. Carolina by Taylor Swift.
Is it hard to admit to that?
I don't know. I have a little bit of a hard time with how much people can become so obsessed with one person, And so that's why I'm a little bit hesitant on that happens to be the last song that I listened to. But I will say that I did watch the recording of her Eras tour this weekend, and it is actually very, very impressive. She's quite a captivating woman. So, I understand the obsession, I guess.
Well, that makes sense. And I don't judge anybody for any music. And I have, it's something I'll listen to because I've actually never listened to Taylor Swift. And when people give me music to listen to on the show, I always listen to it. So I guess this will be my first time.
No way. There's no way.
Oh, it is. There is a way. I've never heard a Taylor Swift song. I mean, I've heard snippets like someone go, oh, that's Taylor Swift, but I've never sat down and gone, let me put this song on.
Okay. That makes more sense.
All right. So I'll clarify it a little bit for you. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Monterey, California. So more specifically, Carmel Valley, about 30 minutes due east of Carmel by the sea.
Okay. So a beautiful area of the country.
It was. It is a very beautiful area, but that's about it.
That's about it? What do you mean by that?
There's just not much going on there. So at 17, right after I graduated high school, I made my way down to San Diego to go to San Diego State. And coming up on 20 years later, I never had a reason to leave until now.
How do you find you? So you go to San Diego State. Before we even get to San Diego State, what was growing up like for you? What was family life for you?
I'm an only child, and admittedly, I adopted my parents' mentality and frame of mind. One parent was raised post-depression. You don't express emotion, you fear money. And that fear was instilled in me pretty strongly. The other was told that they were a mistake as a child, and had a pretty rough upbringing, and just didn't, you know, there's a lot of pain that's still embedded in that individual, and I came to learn that mindset, and they loved me. They didn't treat me poorly. It was just, I think it was much more my trauma as a child was watching them struggle in their own minds, and so it just became a belief system in me that I'm just not enough, not rich enough, not strong enough, not pretty enough, not strong enough or smart enough, just plain not enough. And I had a lot of friends, but nothing. Well, yeah, it didn't matter the amount of friendships I had. I was pretty miserable. I will say I did not like high school. The only thing that really got me through was the sports that I was involved with, cross country and track, and marijuana. To be honest with you, I picked up that drug because I stole it from one of my parents when I was 16, and uh, it it was kind of like a companion, if you will, and just made life a little bit more fun, if you will, and held on to that for the next 10 years.
I know that when I did some reading on you, and I believe it's on your website, the IFAA website as well. You had did you have a house burn when you were a child?
A couple days after my 13th birthday, an arsonist, I lived on a 10-acre property, and it just happened to be, I had a sleepover for my 13th birthday, and we had sent off all the girls, and I walked out onto the deck, and our deck overlooked all of Carmel Valley out to the ocean. And I saw 30-foot flames down at my neighbor's property. And at at 13, not experiencing fire at all, it was just like, wow, dad, what?
Yeah.
Look at that, you know? Not and this was September, early September, and so that's not a good time in California to see 30-foot flames. And there was a second spot fire. It was kind of like both of the fires were at the base of our property, and our property was at the top of the hill, and so it was going to blow us up basically. And we did not lose it because there was a major forest fire going on in Big Sur at the time. And our home was spared because the tankers noticed that there was a fire happening where homes were. So it was just a shit show of panic for a few hours, and my folks running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And I mean, it was very interesting because I found myself with a visceral reaction of my whole body trembling.
Right.
And fast forward probably 15 years, something like that. Corey, my late husband, and I watched our furnace catch on fire with our daughter, our 2-year-old, sleeping upstairs above it. And fortunately, again, you're able to remedy that and no damage was done, but I found myself in the same visceral reaction.
Yeah.
And that was my first realization of the trauma from when I was 13, still very much locked inside of me, that I didn't have any comprehension of what PTSD was or anything like that at the time.
So at 13, you kind of, you never dealt with what you went through on that day.
I had no awareness of what fire can do at that point in time.
Oh, okay. I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're 13 and you see it and you don't understand how devastating that could have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I also read in that bio, the little short bio on the website, that you had this innate desire to do more for people on a large scale. Was that always there for you?
It was. I would say that it got stronger and stronger after I went to college. I went to San Diego State with the intention of going into hair and makeup afterwards. And when I became a hair and makeup artist, it was very interesting because I was very successful in what I did, but really struggled with wanting to, just needing more, which who knows, it could have very well been the mindset that I had locked myself into, and that I was just plain not enough, right? And
Yeah.
so I had this belief that helping one person at a time wasn't enough, and not realizing that I was the person that needed the healing in order to feel enough. But yes, that was very prominent in my life, and I would have conversations with Corey and have multiple jobs trying to fulfill this need to do something bigger and greater. And it was very shortly before Corey was killed. I was having this panic attack, the kind where it's hard to breathe through the tears. And I remember looking up at Corey, and there was this actualization in his eyes. There was nothing he could do here to fix me. And I'm sure we'll get into it a bit more, what his sacrifice truly did for me, what his life and after has done for me.
So you find your way to San Diego State. I know you say hair and makeup after, but what do you study at San Diego State? Okay.
And I'll tell you, the greatest learning that I did when I was going to San Diego State was the 22 roommates that I had over that course of time. That was my learning experience on how to manage people.
Yeah.
That was an irreplaceable experience of living with that people over 4.5 years.
How do you, I'm out of curiosity, and this just because I'm nosy, how do you end up with 22 roommates?
It was just the different homes that I lived in. I lived in the dorms, and then my dorm room roommate and I moved into a house that had 4 or 5 people.
Gotcha.
That circulated over a course of a year, a couple times. And then there was that next home was the biggest one of turnover. I started with 4 people, and then I think it was 1 or 2 years. I think it was 2 years I was in that one. It was like 8 people circulated through, and I was the only original one over the 2 years. And so it was that kind of just fluctuation and people moving on and carrying on, and me moving. I've moved 8.
I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I lost you. She'll be back. I should mention that she's doing this interview from her car in San Diego in the driving range.
You got me.
Yeah, now I have you. Welcome back.
Sorry.
No, you're okay.
Ruined the whole thing.
No, not at all. Let me hit record again, just to get it going again. It'll be take 2 or something like that. It's the wonders of editing. It'll be just fine.
All right.
So, all right. So we talked about the 22 roommates. I think that's where we lost the connection. And it just sounds like it's a chaotic 4.5 years. And like you said, it's quite a learning experience. So, because you do learn to deal with all kinds of personalities.
Yeah, I appreciate the time that I had living with all those different people because it gave me such a beautiful awareness of how to manage people, and how to converse and how to work with people. And that's honestly, that's what I enjoy the most. So
I
it
think,
set me up for
I
what
think
I do now.
in a way, you have to actually learn how to deal with yourself as well, though, because you have to maintain a sense of self, but also be able to interact with these people and kind of manipulate your own personality to get along with these people as well, while maintaining that sense of self. Maybe I'm off base there, but that's how I would see it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a fine balance of, like you said, kind of manipulating yourself and also being authentic to yourself so you can be respected and trusted.
So you graduate from San Diego State and you do go into hair and makeup and you become successful, as you say.
Yep.
What does successful look like?
Yeah. Sure.
Do you own a business? Are you doing, I don't know. Hair and makeup, as you look at me and you go, oh yeah, this guy has no idea. So explain that to me.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different ways that you can describe success in this day and age.
Mhm.
The social media game was just starting when I became working as a hair and makeup artist. So I thought with that side of it because I don't see myself as a salesperson, and the social media game is definitely a sales
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, it is.
I feel as though I was successful in hair and makeup because I connected with people, and I guess I'm just kind of blessed with hands that just kind of work magic and not really have to know much of the technical side of what to do. It just kind of happens, and so the success was being busy and having full books. And yes, I worked independently, rented chairs and worked in a
Mhm.
studio with a partner. And yeah, it's a pretty individual game, the hair and makeup world.
So at what point do you meet Corey?
I was a working cosmetologist. Yeah, and it was on my 26th birthday. We had a large blackout in the year of 2011, I think it was. And the year anniversary came around. And at the time, I was living in the gay district of San Diego and uh, had befriended one of my neighbors who was a lesbian. And after I went to dinner with 10 or so friends, my neighbor comes up to me and she said, "Let's go to gossip. They're having a blackout party," because it was the year anniversary of the blackout.
Right.
It's all across the county for about 12 hours. I said, "Fine, let's go get just this lesbian bar. I'll go get hit on my girls on my birthday. It's not a big deal. I'll go home and put on my lesbian attire, my flat boots and my glasses because I'm not meeting anyone tonight." And wanting to help people and love have always been my number one. I've been boy crazy since I was a kid and always wanted that partnership and love. And I will say it was absolutely in line with what they say it happens when you're not looking for it.
Yeah.
I I walked in and I was looking at my phone and I was waiting for everybody else to get in, and Corey struck by me and he said, "Hey, you're cute." I looked up. I said, "Hey, thanks. Are you gay?" He said, "No." "Are you?" "No." "All right. I'll see you inside."
It's a great intro. Are you gay? No. Are you? No. Okay, cool. We're good. That's funny.
Perfect.
Yeah. So was it like from the get go or what? Did you guys did you know that was it?
To be honest, I thought he'd be my last, one night stand, and yeah, well, he told me a couple days later when he texted me, and I told him, "I'm pretty sure I told you didn't need to call me," and he said, "Well, it's not my first rodeo." So he was a hot shot at the time, and in September he was at work, and so from there he just waited until he got off of his season in late November and called me again, and the rest is pretty much history. Yeah, we were together from there on out. We dated and played the game pretty hard because neither one of us actually believes that partnership and love could be real, and
Mm.
we played it pretty hard for a few months, and we split up, and he kept pursuing, and I said, "Listen, I really like you. I told you I love you, but I also don't want to, send you off to work and not hear from you for 3 days
Yeah.
because I want to have children someday, and I don't want to tell them I don't know where that is."
Right.
And it was just a whole different ballgame from there on out. That was July 2013. We moved in September. He proposed to me in December. We got married the following March, and we got pregnant in May. So it was just, and from there on out, I heard from him every day, except for that damn Thomas fire.
Yeah.
He got thrown into the black a couple of days before he was killed, and it was the very first time that I didn't hear from him for 24 hours, and the anxiety was definitely high. And when he finally got back to me, he said, "Oh, I've been in the black," and he hated playing in the black, and he told me that the reception wasn't good, and so that next day when I didn't get a hold of him, I wasn't concerned for what the news I was about to get.
Yeah. And that's the worst news you could have gotten. Correct.
I mean, even today, right? 6 years later, I dropped my kids off at school, and I'm driving through the rain, and I think he's actually dead. Like
Mm.
it is still so incomprehensible. Even like in the position that I'm in now, and I've been fortunate enough to fall in love again, and it's been a year now. We're just about to celebrate our anniversary, and like it's a very, very strange place to like be in love, but still very much like wanting your husband to be here.
Yeah. That's quite a dichotomy, isn't it? I don't know if you can hear me again, but I lost you.
I moved my car. So when
That, that was, well, I mean, it gave you a breather though. So that's perfect.
did you catch it?
Oh yeah. I got most of that. So I think that, we won't have to go back to it for you. Uh, so, and I don't know much about the Thomas fire. And so can you give us a little background about that? Where was it? I mean, obviously the fires in California during that time it was in California that he was for the Thomas fire. Okay. So I know the wildfires or wildland fires out there are just, for me as a structural firefighter, they scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, no shit.
And I mean, I'll be honest with you. And it's probably because I don't have a comfort level for it and I don't have the training for it. But, I hear that, structural firefighters think wildland firefighters are crazy. Wildland firefighters think structural firefighters are crazy. So it's just
Yeah.
where your training is and where your comfort level is. But can you give us a little background on that Thomas fire?
Yeah, it was in December. It started on December 5th in 2017 in Ventura and Santa Barbara County because of winds. That's where my fear now is not so much with fire, it's more so winds.
Right.
It was an absolute monster. You know what? It started on December 4th. Sorry. December 5th was when he was sent up.
Okay.
So, and they fight this fire for how many days?
It lasted for about 40 days, but Corey was killed 9 days after being up there on December 14th.
Okay. And what do you do immediately following that as the widow? What is obviously your reaction? You've got a visceral reaction to it, because how could you not have a visceral reaction to it? But how do you find life in immediacy after that, after his death?
Um, I have found that my experience, I know a lot of widows, and there is a lot of commonality across the board when it comes to widower, in terms of reaction and behavior and experiences, but there are not many that I've heard of. For me, um, it was life shattering in that moment, but I was given a very special gift less than 10 minutes after I found that my husband was dead. And that was, my mind automatically went to the Prescott crew that was killed in the Yarnell fire. The 19 of them that got burned over in 2013. Um, and I had the chief right in front of me, and I said, who else was hurt? And when he told me no one else, I was given the gift of gratitude.
Mm.
I felt genuine gratitude moments after I found out that my husband was dead. And I believe that that dramatically changed the course of my experience, because I was able to feel that very special and life-changing thought process of gratitude. That and giving. The night before he was killed, I listened to Tony Robbins for the very first time. And in that interview that I happened to listen to, I got from Tony that the reason for living is giving. And when Corey was killed, I was halfway pregnant with our second daughter, and my morning sickness was so bad that I had to pull out of a contract. I was working as an adjunct professor in cosmetology, and I had to pull out early, and they had continued paying me, not being. And as I told you before, I feared money. So
Yeah.
I was always gripping it, right?
Mhm.
I had the fear of money. So I was always holding it and never giving.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time in my life that morning, the last text message that I sent to Corey was admitting to him that I had I had been given unearned $2,200, and I planned on tithing.
Right.
And it was as if I opened my hands, and God said, okay, all right, now that you've opened your hands, be ready to receive.
Right.
And so the two things that I just feel as though changed the trajectory of my grief and widowhood was gratitude and giving. Because since then, my life has been unbelievable. It's been terrible,
Yeah.
but equally just unbelievable. And faith too. Giving, gratitude, and faith. And Corey absolutely helped my faith basis, because Corey became my direct link to God, if you will, right? Because I knew that Corey was real in whatever this experience, however real this experience is. For me, I was able to believe that Corey could help me out, right? And it is to this day. And time and time and time and time again, I have said to Corey specifically, you got to do something. And it's just like,
Pathetic.
and it's just like, oh my God, like now when I tell my friends, like, are you sitting down? They're like, oh God, what happened now? Like the stories, I do need to write a book, but I want to share the intimate details of what has happened because it's so incredibly just like mind blowing. Uh, but there's one person that is very special to me that I know I would cause more pain to share my truth, and I can't do that to her. So, yeah.
So how does it progress for you? Like, so when do you, and for lack of a better term, when do you get Corey back from that fire?
Oh, when we bring him home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another very interesting thing. I had no clue what was about to happen in terms of the honors that Corey would receive. And so I turned to Tony, the chief of San Diego, right after I asked him who else was hurt, I said, oh, I'm going to go get him. I'm going to drive up 200 miles to Ventura and go throw him in the back of my car and bring him home. And he's like, hold on, that's not how it works, So it was the 14th that it happened, and on the 17th, we brought him home. And that was, and probably will be, for the rest of my life, the most incredible experience of my life. It was, again, that my life is just the ultimate polarity now. The day that we walked into that morgue was absolutely the hardest part of this entire experience. Looking at that box that they carry them out in, but then to be greeted with like 200 miles of stopped freeway and Black Hawks floating sideways with us with these winds that were just ripping, and just it was the most incredible thing I'll ever see. People lining the freeways for 200 miles on every overpass on the opposite side of the freeway, just stopped,
Yeah.
just pulled over and just on top of their cars, honoring Corey. Like, it's something else.
So before he died, he had a coworker to take his own life, correct?
Did on November 5th, just a month before Corey was killed, I got a call, a FaceTime call from Corey, and he was sitting in an office, and that wasn't normal for Corey. He was normally out tinkering with a bunch of stuff, and he had a peculiar look on his face, and he told me that Ryan Mitchell had died by suicide that morning by jumping off a bridge. And it was jarring because even at that time, we had known each other for 5 years. I never once thought about what Corey was actually doing at work and the mental implications that it inevitably would have.
Right.
Because Corey was very unique. I don't want to say that he didn't struggle with mental health, because I think that everyone has varying degrees of mental health and their culpability, right? And I think that he was just very fortunate in not having such a struggle, for one, and also knowing his coping mechanisms that worked for him.
Right.
And so the mental health side of the spectrum was all me. Like the problems that we had and the disagreements we had, because I was just a mess in my head. I didn't like living, even though I had it all. had the love, I had the family, I had the house, I had the career. Again, yeah, it wasn't enough. And so it was a very eye-opening experience to have Corey in the office of Ryan covering for him because of what choice had happened that morning. Um, and I think it was also a wake-up call for Corey on just how quickly mental health can just destroy everything. Ryan was married and had a child as well, and it obviously affected Corey and just rough.
And so did Corey at that time, did he decide that he needed to do something, or is that just something that you guys had spoken about?
No, it was just spoken about, and to quite honestly, it probably would have just fallen to the wayside had Corey not died a month later. And I had an awareness within self immediately following it. I had the conversation with Tony Meacham on the drive up to go get Corey. So 2 days after he had died, I knew this is why I'm here. And
Right.
it's to give a voice to the first responder community that I love so much because they were his brothers. It was to just make noise and get the outside community that is not in the fire community to become aware
Yes.
of just how detrimental this career can be on these individuals. And then to also simultaneously remind these heroes, these first responders, that they're not machines and they have to be proactive in helping themselves. Wake the fuck up,
Yes.
you know? And within that experience, it helped me wake the fuck up and realize that it's not what I produce in this lifetime. It's who I am.
Yeah.
My value, it was given to me before I took my first breath. And so, like I said, Corey's sacrifice, it saved my life. And it put me in a position to hopefully impact some others and help others remember who they are and how special we all are.
Hey guys, quick break right here just to check in and thank each of you for listening to the show. Your support has been paramount and I appreciate all of you. I have one request though. I need you to share the show with everyone you know. Help me get the word out and spread these stories as far and as wide as we can. While you're at it, please leave a review of the show wherever you happen to listen. Feel free to reach out to me at any time to share your story, to talk, or to pass on suggestions. Let's get on with the rest of the show. So you found this organization and the IFAA, which it's just tough for me to say because I always want to say IAFF, but IFAA. And so tell the audience, what does that stand for?
Yeah. So it stands for the Iverson Foundation for Active Awareness. And to be blatantly honest with you, I started the nonprofit to be taken more seriously.
As a person?
As I've come to learn with the... Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Because I was in a place of, I didn't feel like I was enough. Who the fuck was I?
Right.
Just feel like, listen, everybody...
Right.
My God, like what is my credibility in that place within the first responder community? Not knowing that just being a widow gives me credibility. Just being a first responder spouse gives me credibility. I didn't have the belief in myself that I was worthy of making such noise, right? And I started the nonprofit and then quickly learned that nonprofit work is sales.
It is
work.
Yes, it is.
And as I said to you before, sales is just not like sure, I can do it. But to be honest, I really don't like asking for money, whether I'm selling a product or I'm selling something to benefit a community. It's still it's a very interesting juxtaposition, right? Because we were talking about before having your hands open. Uh, Clearly, it's still something that I struggle with and have a little bit of that non-belief system in, and so the nonprofit. It's been an interesting management over the past 5 years. There was a lot of production done in the beginning because I was throwing a lot of money because of Corey's name and who he was, and we did a lot with it. It was so awesome. I partnered up with this gal named Kendall Wood, and she's a yoga therapist, and man, she is a hustler. She she has we've sponsored, so we've paid for over 2,200 yoga sessions in 3 years is when we really started sponsoring actual classes.
I think I lost you again. There you are.
I have never experienced this
It's okay.
technical.
Well, you've never had 3 days of rain in San Diego, probably. It's all good. It's all good. So you were at 2,200 yoga sessions in the last 3 years.
With Kendall and a couple other yoga therapists, we've sponsored over 22 yoga sessions, which has just been so incredible to work with these women and make such a profound difference. Now, the thing, besides struggling with being a salesperson and bringing more money in, I also struggle with in order to have a successful business, in my opinion, you have to have a specific niche, right? You need to sell one thing. And I struggle with being the Iverson Foundation is the yoga foundation, right? Like, because mental health is so unique to each individual. And so I really struggle with feeling like this is the way, right? Like, being said, I do believe that yoga is a really great gateway to learning mindfulness and getting you started because of the mind, body, spirit connection that it brings together. So I do feel it is a very powerful tool, especially for the first responder community, being that it's non-threatening because it's not talk therapy,
Right.
And so I really do support it. But in terms of business, point blank, I'm holding my back in terms of grandiose.
So let's talk about the three, I guess, would you call them the three pillars of IFAA?
Sure.
What are those? I've got the website pulled up. I can click over to it, but I read through the three of them, and it raise awareness, reduce the stigma, shift the culture, right?
Sure.
Are those what you would consider your three pillars?
Yes. And I think that we have accomplished that to an extent, right? I think that there's a lot more work that needs to be done, but just seeing the awareness that has been brought to the table over the past 6 years has been so profound. This talk of mental health within the first responder community. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, being on the other side of the country, it just seems as though, in my mind's eye, that mindfulness and mental health is absolutely being talked about within the first responder community across the board.
It is. And there are pockets where people are still refusing to bring it to the table. And I think there are always going to be pockets. And I think that's what our jobs is to bring that awareness of those pockets more than anything. I
I can tell you this, that I know somebody was in a training the other day and they were talking about all kinds of subjects like, you know, people abusing sick leave, people being late, people not performing, people doing this. And they were losing the focus because everything that they were mentioning was a mental health topic and nobody was paying attention to the mental health part of it.
Yeah, that's, hey,
And so I think and I'm sorry to step, we've got that delay and I apologize. I think that California is one of those states that's either has passed or is working to pass PTSD as presumption laws, basically. And I know Washington State has done it, and there's a couple other states that have done it. All right, so you've got this, and they're going to presume it's from on the job. When you come out east, you don't have that. There isn't an openness to even considering that yet, and so it's still a battle. Mental health it can still be a battle to just say, hey, let's recognize it, let's talk about it, let's work on it.
yeah. And I understand why that could be a holdup and the, a struggle to acknowledge that because they don't want to glorify, right?
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't want to say like, congratulations,
Right.
you've chosen to leave your entire family. But I also think that people that are not plagued by this disease of mental health, you're not going to just be like, great, I'm just going to go kill myself.
Right.
So then everyone else can suffer.
Right.
The place that mental health can take you in, you're not in your right mind,
No.
right? Being a disease. And so that's been something that has been really amazing to see is Ryan's name go up on the California wall and be recognized for the fireman that he was, not by what took it, but what he did for his community.
Right.
And I don't think that will, increase suicides
No.
if it's acknowledged that they are just as important as someone who got caught in flames. It's a difficult one. It's very difficult, and I would imagine it's especially difficult for those individuals that don't struggle. Why would we acknowledge that?
I think that even the whole focus of my show is mental health. That's obvious. I mean, that is what I talk about. Even when I have followers that reach out to me and say, that, oh, that's not accurate. That's not real. Or we're glorifying this too much. And I think that in some cases, and I don't want to get off on a tangent because yes, sometimes we do probably glorify something a little too much. And then the pendulum swings, we tend as a people to go from one extreme to the next extreme when really we need to be somewhere here in the middle.
Sure.
And there's a hesitation on some parts and maybe on parts of departments or municipalities to say, wait a second, no, we have to focus on the middle part. And I think that's wise. But I think that there are some departments and some municipalities and some leaders out there who still think, no, you know what? You chose this job, suck it up, go, do your thing. If you can't handle it, get out. And you still get that. And that's that stigma, that second pillar of the three that we talked about. It's that stigma that's still there that if you can't handle this job, get out. Well, that's, some of these guys don't even realize they can't handle this job.
Yeah. And that doesn't work anymore. I mean, I can understand it to an extent, but the main point is we're all human, right? It is that time has passed of living like machines, and our day and age isn't like that anymore. Like people are showing emotions, and it's kind of like you were saying, the pendulum is very, very intense now to where the extremes are so profound that we're in this culture of like mass healing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also in a culture of mass devastation and just people losing their minds, you
Right.
know, and the balance, that's the point of all of it, right? And the awareness, the balance and the awareness, and being in the now, which can be very, very hard.
So you say it was very heavy at the beginning when you founded the organization and you had a lot of money dumped in and you were kind of go, go, go. Has that slowed down for you now, or is just the focus kind of shifted some for you?
No, it slowed down. It slowed down when COVID hit.
Yeah. All right.
But to be honest, it was a gift, because that COVID for me enabled me to go inside, right? Like literally and figuratively. I was locked up in my house, and for the first time in uh, 2 years, I really had the privacy to grieve.
Yeah.
It's not that I wasn't grieving, but I wasn't grieving in the capacity of, like, I didn't feel anger towards Corey or towards any of it uh, before COVID. I was able to go to a place and be like, "You son of a bitch, you fucking left me here
Yeah.
to take care of your kids. Like, what is happening? What is happening?" And I was able to feel all the feels
Mm.
and go deep into self. And that's where my healing really started. And I really became aware of what mindfulness really means, what self-care really means, because I'll be blatantly honest with you, I didn't know when Corey died. When people ask me, "What are you doing to take care of yourself?" you automatically think, "Oh, okay, yes, I'm talking to a therapist."
Right.
Mhm. I'm also getting massages. I'm getting my nails done. Yes, that's self-care, right?
Mhm.
Not knowing how much more mindfulness and self-care really is. And it kind of came into this framework now for me, of what my daily is. And I built it into this framework in order to share with the first responder community in a digestible way. Um, and how simple mindfulness and self-care really can be. And so, would you like to hear it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, think of our elements:
Mhm.
air, earth, water, space, and fire. Air correlates to your breath. I believe that our breath is our most powerful autonomic bodily function that we have control over. It's it's such a healing tool that we have that most of us don't pay attention to at all. So something as simple as doing box breathing, breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds for a couple minutes. How that can regulate the nervous system, right? When you think about when you're stressed out, you're breathing very shallow and not feeding your body, right? When you're calm, how much deeper your breath gets, and you have the power to change that breath just by being mindful of it. That can then change your mindset, right? And all these things can be done in less than 10 minutes.
Right.
And that was the other thing that first responders give me as an excuse.
No.
Well, I'm at work all day, so I don't have that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just
You're
it's an
right.
excuse. One, because we're not aware of how easy it can be and what we can do. And two, just not wanting to commit to self.
Mhm.
And so earth, right? Earth can be correlated to our movement, which I believe that the first responder community is very good at innately, in physical fitness, right? But the thing about physical fitness is it doesn't have to be extreme exertion.
Right.
It just needs to be mindful and every single day. So it can be as simple as stretching for 10 minutes and uh, putting your mind and body together, and being connected to one another. That's where yoga can come in and be a really powerful tool, right? Yoga can also be powerful because it connects the breath to the body, to the spirit. So that's why all three of them can be really powerful within yoga. It can, um, Earth can also be correlated to the simple act of grounding, taking your shoes off, going outside, putting your feet on the ground, and getting reconnected to where you come from. And that's from the earth, right? Water. When you think about water and like the ocean, lake, river, how your mental, emotional stressors just melt away, right? Okay, great. I'm stuck at work. I can't just go to the beach. I can't just go to the lake. Well, we're taking the precious resource of water for granted in the act of physically cleansing ourselves every day in the shower.
Mhm.
We need to use that resource as cleansing our emotional body. I can't tell you how much healing has happened in the shower for me over the past 6 years. That's my safe place to and allow that water to just wash the shit away. You can also use, mindfulness is about coming back to present.
Mhm.
So I think that that's where ice baths come into play and their benefits. Well, part of the benefit in ice bath or throwing your shower on ice cold at the very end or at some point, it's to bring you back to that right now. You can't think about anything else when you're freezing your ass off
No,
than
you can't.
the fact that you're freezing your ass. And so what that tool does is brings you to right now.
Mm-hmm.
Space correlates to your meditation. And I think that meditation is one of the most powerful tools that will help for everyone and everyone, anyone and everyone, right? The problem with meditation is it can be intimidating for people. Well, I can't stop my mind. I can't slow my mind down. Well,
Yeah.
those are the ones that need it the most. First of all it's the space between the thoughts. That's where the gold is in meditation, mindfulness, and self-care, because in between the thoughts, that's when you're able to communicate with your higher power. You're able to communicate with God. You're able to learn who you are. You're also able to learn within meditation and how you're communicating with yourself, what your internal talk is. Are you shit talking on yourself all day long, telling yourself you're not enough? Well, of course you're going to attract that outside of you. And in learning how you're communicating with yourself, that's going to allow you to then be more effectively communicating with those outside of you.
Right.
And let's face it, our connection and our relationships in this earth is our most precious thing. The love that we share with one another and the communication that we're able to have and what that looks like. And then fire then correlates to your love, your faith, your giving, your gratitude. Fire very obviously can be very challenging for me, but it has also been equally the source of my greatest growth. To have the courage to open my heart up and love again, to have the courage to give without fear that I won't receive, to have faith in something that is greater than myself and know that I am protected, I am loved, and I am guided. Um, that's what's gotten me through, and I will forever have the love of my husband to carry me through and reminds me that I'm enough.
Yeah, those are I've never thought of the correlations that you mentioned, how they kind of work together, or not just work together, but the kind of defining those elements.
It's really special. And to put those into practice every day has been a big change in my life. And it's been really profound and really amazing. I love living now. I would absolutely change what happened to Corey for everyone else outside. I can't say that I would change it for myself because I'm not sure if I don't know what would have happened
So,
for me.
where is the organization today? What are your main focuses today?
My main focus is today. Well, my main focus today with the organization is speaking my authentic truth, leaning into my healing, and doing things like this, speaking to the community, speaking to individuals, and walking the walk, right? Mm. I I need to heal in order to help heal others. And so we're doing little bits still in terms of offering yoga and output in a monetary way. Um, but that has slowed down a lot. And that's just, you know, to be very frank with you, there's just not a whole lot of money in the bank right
Right.
now. And I've got to give myself grace for that because I'm very, very grateful that I'm not the only one doing it anymore. There's so many organizations that are working towards helping out the first responder community. And I will always be connecting peace that if somebody is struggling, we're going to get you,
Right.
right? We're going to be there for you. And it's kind of to be determined on where the Iverson Foundation goes. And but I'll tell you what, shutting it down doesn't feel right.
Right. So where are you personally? How would you describe yourself as a person today?
As a person, I am having the courage to move forward. I have blessed to fall in love again, and I sold my home, purchased a new home, and we're leaving San Diego and starting a new and extended family, which is really scary, but I'm very grateful to share a love with a man that has given me the courage to do that. And I'm really excited.
That I think that's a victory in itself. I mean, you use that organization appropriately. You've helped numerous people, but you also helped yourself with that organization, and now it's time to live a little, I suppose, huh?
Yeah, I will always be an advocate for the first responder community, especially the man that I happen to fall in love with is also a fireman, and he is uh, walking the walk as well. I don't want to tell his story, but he is living in recovery.
Okay.
And he's a living example of what I stand for. That those that walk in the darkness can absolutely walk in the light. And how wonderful and incredible life can be when you choose to walk in the light. You choose healing. You choose connection and help, and have the courage to have faith. And it's a really profound partnership that is greater than I ever dreamed of. And I will say a reflection of my healing to be able to attract someone who is in such a profound healing. And so, yeah, thank you. I'm very grateful and happy and proud of where I am and where my family is going and where we are today. And could not have done it without my sweet husband.
That's, I mean, that's awesome to put a an overused word to it. That's just awesome. I love it.
Thank you. I'm
Um,
very grateful.
and I told you at the beginning that we were going to, I was going to ask you two different questions before we wrapped up. And now that I'll claim that you had time to think about it, but you didn't, because we're sitting here talking for the entire time, or we're trying to get the connection established the entire time. But the reason, and I also told you I'd explain the one that I always ask for an everyday carry from people. This show, I was spinning the show around in my head and how I wanted to do it. And once I got down the format of how I wanted to do it, what comes next? What am I going to call this monstrosity? You know, and a coworker of mine, and I always forget to give him credit, but a coworker of mine reminding me of a book that I had read a while ago, and it's called The Things They Carried, and it's by an author named Tim O'Brien. And it was a novel set in Vietnam about a platoon, and the story kind of follows the platoon and what they take into war. You know, a radio, an M16, an aid bag, or whatever it is. But more importantly, it's what they carry out and what happens to them when they're in that war. And so then I kind of bastardized the title from The Things They Carried to The Things We All Carry, because we do that as firefighters or cops or nurses or doctors or even dispatchers or whatever you want to say. We take something into everything we do, but we bring something out when we come out of it. So I like to kind of turn it around and say, you know, ask what's an everyday carry, something that you carry with you. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be whatever. That if you leave home without it, you just feel naked.
Oh, I love that you have that kind of perspective on it, first of all, because when I heard about your podcast, I thought initially the trauma we carry,
Right.
the negatives that we all carry. And so to have that kind of spin and perspective of something that you couldn't live without, I really love that. And mine, you know, is probably of no surprise. It's love and gratitude.
Yeah. And how do you make sure you leave home with it?
Well, the simple act of saying thank you and goes a long way. And I wake up every morning and say thank you for whether it's something tangible, something not, and big or small. I thank God for everything that I have, even the seemingly hardship things that I had, because it's all for it's all for me to heal. So the gratitude piece, fortunately, is a pretty easy one, and love, that one, like, yes, you know, it's pretty easy as well, because I got a lot of stuff to love, and if I get myself twisted on my mindset, I'll only love my husband.
Right.
I was an easy one. Even if I'm pissed off, then left me. He's not going back. If that's another perspective that I have to remember. Is just because I can't see him doesn't mean he's not there.
Right. So what about a book? Do you have a book that you would suggest to the audience? Something that maybe it's just entertainment, but maybe it's also, there's something they can garner some value from.
Yeah, I was reading The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson when Corey was killed,
Okay.
and it kind of like The Secret, but in a faith based perspective. And it's a really good one, really profound.
Okay.
I started reading it again a couple years after he died, and it's triggered some more magic to happen in my life, and it's a good one.
All
The
right.
Circle Maker,
Circle Maker. And who was the author again? I'm sorry.
Mark Batterson.
Okay. Where, if you want people to find you, where can they find you on social media?
I would say Instagram Ashley.m.Iverson is going to be where you're actually going to be able to reach me. The Iverson Foundation's Instagram is there.
Which the
I'm just not on it as much.
All right.
To be blatantly honest
Yeah.
with you. That's been part of my healing in itself. I'm not so socially social media driven,
Yeah.
if you will, right? I got really sucked into my self-value and being in social media accounts and how many followers, and it then transferred to the foundation side of it, and it's kind of been part of my healing in that, like, it's not everything for me. So I will admit that I'm not the best with the foundation's Instagram account.
all right.
I'll go on my personal one.
Well, I appreciate the conversation. I thank you for taking some time in the middle of a rainstorm, a 3-day rainstorm in San Diego, and hopefully it was worth your time.
Yes, very much.
Thank you very much. It's a fascinating story, and I'm happy to hear about where you are today. I think that's the most important thing. Everything you went through is, you can't replace it because it is who you are today, and it's tragic, but it's also a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I'm assuming this part of the podcast we're offline. Yeah.
No, we're not offline right now. Sorry.
So after the fact, I'll share some.
All right. Well, how about I wrap it up, and we had to stay on and let this upload anyway for a couple of minutes. So I'll wrap it up now and just again say thank you very much. I appreciate it, and we're out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Things We All Carry. Head over to the website, thethingsweallcarry.com, for show notes, resources, and to sign up for the newsletter. Until next week, take care of yourselves and remember to check in on each other.